Hello everyone and welcome to another WarLock Tiles build of the month. Here we have a nobleman's house, a bit of a mansion. Now the story behind this is that he has sent a message and it sounded like he was very much under attack. It sounds like a band of mercenaries or thugs have taken over his house and have sort of started to kick him out, basically. They've tried to loot, claim the house for their own, and, well, he needs some local protection, some local help to get these thugs out of his house. We are going to have the soldier here and the blood hunter be our party as they venture through. Now, there are multiple ways that you could run this. They could come through the front door as they're going to in this scenario. Or you could have, if you've watched last month's build of the month, I said there was a staircase at the end of that and you could take that wherever you liked. There's a staircase here, maybe that's where they enter. And we'll touch back on that later on. But for now, let's dive into the build. So the hunter and soldier are going to come through the front door. It's eerily creaked open. These thugs don't seem to be caring about it. They think they can take anyone on and maybe they're just here to loot and get out while the noble is somewhere locked away. They've hidden themselves away. As you enter this sort of nice room, now this is why I designed this build. I've actually used the town square set as interior location styling. So if I remove the stone here, this is basically this middle walkway area. It's using, rather than the normal stone, it's using that cobblestone and even a little bit of the brickwork underneath the stone here as the sort of central walkway. And I think it blends really, really nicely with the stone to create a very sort of centralized path for you to go along. You can look around and obviously there's this grand stone that you can see. There's paintings on the walls, probably of the noble's family, but maybe of landscapes. And you start to then notice that you're not alone. There are a couple of people hidden behind, a sort of a dwarf and a mage hidden behind the rock. But you can see a not very friendly looking Goliath and, to be honest, a not very friendly looking thief. And that is when you're going to start to roll for initiation. So yeah, it's quite a large area. Now there's a bit of rubble over in the corner. You can move that, you know, add more rubble to make it more awkward to traverse around. I've got some just spike traps at the back just for a bit of flair really, and maybe you could even have some of those parapets, you know, flame bits going at the back to really make this like an iconic entranceway to this person's house. But, you know, it's been destroyed a little bit, hence some of the rubble, and we're going to start the combat. So you can come around, and that's when maybe you start to notice the people that were hidden behind the rock. As the DM, you could have had these off at the side, and unless they've got really good perception, they weren't going to have seen them when they came through the door. And all of a sudden, this is a fight that is outnumbering your party, or at least this party. Obviously, you can tailor it however you want. The idea here is there's a large area to maneuver around, have maybe different pockets of fights going on. Maybe some of those thugs have rushed in and some of them have stood back because they are more for mage range and stuff like that. That's the idea here. Pockets of fights in a big space and what is supposed to be this nobleman's entranceway, this large area that sort of shows off their wealth. Obviously, you are supposed to dispatch all of these enemies, and you start to really notice this is just a sort of a ragtag band of people. They're not, you know, all elves, they're not Goliaths, they are just a bunch of mercenary style people that have got together to really earn some money. You can come over to this doorway, but you're going to find that it's not budging. You can maybe show the people, show your players, the adventurers, that, you know, it was barricaded on the other side. Then you can, most likely your players will turn around and come through to what is effectively a nice banquet area. You've almost got a noble throne at the other end. Obviously this noble thinks very highly of themselves. And you've got this sort of table area with some loot over in the corner that maybe they've not got to yet. Of course, you do notice there's a few more foes for you to deal with. One of them is going to come and as soon as you're coming through the doorway, do this running, leaping attack, getting initiative against your players. You know, they're entering here looking, and there's this person already bearing down on them with sort of a dagger and a sword. It's not good for your party, but hopefully they won't take any too serious. You've got another type of mage coming in who's maybe going from range, and this very fierce warrior with what can only be described as a battle axe that you don't want through the back of your face. Obviously, you've got sort of the awkwardness of the design of the room here. It's curved, so it's some limited areas. You've also got the table in the middle. Maybe as a DM, you could, you know, make someone have a height advantage. You know, a small dwarf could maybe run underneath, you know, like halfling or something as well. You could maybe even have that where they're not high enough to attack someone on the table, which could make things awkward for them. But maybe a Goliath could just pick the table up and send someone on it flying across the room and cause some destruction, some fun destruction, you know, fun aspect to the combat. Make some of that terrain, that extra flair, actually impact the fight, not just get in the way. Allow your players to actually muck around with that. I think that could be quite fun. Once you've defeated these three, you know, you're up to a body count of 7 here, so some good XP earned, depending on how good your party already is and how strong you make these foes. You're going to come through this final door. This is like the storeroom, and you actually, I've used this mini here because I thought it was quite fitting. This is from one of the critical role sets, actually. Pretty much all of these are. He's got like this sack netting over his shoulder. He's grabbed some loot. He was on his way out. Maybe he's not ready, but the other two probably heard the fight going on in the other room. If that fight goes on for too long, have them come out and join. But otherwise, you've got this bard and halfling, another halfling mage. You can obviously tailor this to how you like. But I like the idea, one guy was like, oh, loot, loot, loot. Not really hearing or caring what was going on in the other room. But maybe you could just do a bit of a roll, and then if you roll high enough, 2 or 3 times in a row, maybe they go, actually, we need to stop looting and get into this fight because something's going on. What's going on through the door? If they don't know, or you just dispatch the enemies quick enough, you're going to come in here and then have a bit of a fight. Again, in a tighter room, just giving a little bit of variety from the big open space in the entranceway, where there was definitely maybe the chance for multiple mini fights going on, and then this, which is going to be a crammed fight, a crammed room, where, you know, you're almost waiting for someone to get out the doorway to get in and have your hit. You can out these people, and then you can realise that there's no further to go here. At this point, maybe the noble is starting to feel like he can hear, and there's some people going his way, so he could maybe unlock these barricades, allowing you to meet up with him in here rather than in his room, and you've effectively saved him. He's very happy and can give you that cash reward that was promised. Now, this is where I said, if you watched last month's Build of the Month that ended at a stairway, I said it could go to a bank vault, it could go to a castle or a keep, or maybe. This noble has a secretive sort of back entrance that you could have come in on. You would have maybe come up this stairway, noticed that this was barricaded, and been able to maybe talk with the noble who'd barricaded himself into his room, say, look, we're here. We heard about the reward. He could maybe say, all right, go and dispatch the enemies, where you would move this and maybe get surprise on them because you're coming in from behind rather than from where they were. So, you know, that you're not going to be surprised, anyone hiding behind the boulder, because you're surprising them because they don't expect you to come from that way. And then, or maybe he's just like, okay, get me out of here, please. Of course, if you've made the whole build, you're probably going to make the noble say, I'm not coming out until they're taken care of. And that is basically the end. He'll give you the money, the reward for getting him out. Whether you've sort of come up this secretive route, whether you've come in the front door, well, that's up for you and your party, your adventurers, to decide which way they want to do things. So just before I sort of end, let's just run through the sets that I've used. Obviously, I have used just the standard Dungeon Tiles 1 set, as well as a bit of the Town and Village set, just because I wanted a bit of visual variety and I ran out of straight edges. Yes, just straight walls, so I kind of needed a little bit. I've used the Town Square set for these sort of cobblestone central walkways. I think it really works visually very well, like I said at the beginning. In terms of other sets, I've used the curves, more just for visual variety. You could very much easily have just used more Dungeon Tiles 1. I've actually used a bit of an angles here as well. More visual variety, not needed. This could have been boxed in, it could have just been a flat wall, and just a bit of different scatter terrain used, and it could have worked really well. Scatter terrain wise, staircase bits, I've used just the dungeon dressing set here, terrain wise for the scatter terrain. The rest, well, it's just tiles. There's no other scatter terrain other than dungeon dressings. Anyway, that is the nobleman's mansion. Hopefully you've saved him the day, and let's just hope he's not a bad noble. Hopefully he is that one that is good to his citizens. Otherwise, you've saved someone that's maybe cruel to the local population, and these weren't that thuggy at all. Maybe they were a band of do-gooders trying to get him out of power. You can take that where you like. And until next time, check out other news, reviews, and builds of the month on the channel. There's a whole playlist of them, which hopefully there's a box on screen for you to click, because they are a lot of fun to make and hopefully for you guys to watch as well.